Hello everyone, it's me Uncle John. Today I am going to read S3 3155, the first Easter, retold by Penny Frank. After Jesus had been crucified, Joseph and Nicodemus, two of his friends, wrapped up his body and buried it in a garden cave. They rolled a great stone across the opening. Soldiers stood guard in case of trouble. The disciples and some of the others who had loved Jesus went back to the room where they had had a special supper. They felt scared and very sad. But very early on Sunday morning, some of the women took oils and spices to put on the body of Jesus. They went out into the dark, silent streets. They knew that Jesus' body had been put into a cave, but there had not been time to do things properly. The women went quietly into the garden. They wondered how they would get into the cave, but as they came near, they gasped with surprise. The enormous stone had been rolled away from the opening, and the guards had gone. The women ran and peered into the cave. It was empty. Whatever had happened? They began to feel worried. At that moment, they saw two men in bright shining clothes standing beside the cave. The women could hardly believe their eyes. "Why are you looking for Jesus here?" the angels asked. "He's alive. Don't you remember how he told you that he would be killed but would come back to life again? Run and tell the disciples." The women ran back through the city streets as fast as they could go. "Jesus is alive. The angels of God have spoken to us," they gasped to each other as they ran. When the women arrived at the room where the others were, they banged on the door as hard as they could. "Open the door," they called to the disciples. "We have the best news you have ever heard. Jesus is alive." That same day, two of Jesus' friends were walking home to Emmaus. They did not know that Jesus was alive. "There is no reason to stay in Jerusalem now that Jesus is dead," they said. "We are going home." As they walked down the road, another man caught up with them. He did not seem to know what had been happening, so they told him about Jesus' death. To their surprise, the man began to explain to them why Jesus had to die. "Come in and have some supper," they said to him. When they reached home, at the supper table, the visitor took the bread, they thanked God for it, and began to share it around. Then at last they knew who he was. It had been Jesus all the time. But as soon as they recognized him, he disappeared. "We must go back to Jerusalem at once and tell the others," they said. Although it was night time, they hurried back to Jerusalem. When the two friends arrived, they heard what had happened when the women went to the cave. "We didn't believe them," said Simon, Peter, and John. "But when we went to the garden, we found that it was true. Jesus really is alive." While the disciples were talking together, Jesus himself came into the room. They all gasped and backed away. "It's all right," Jesus said. "I'm not a ghost, and I would like something to eat." The disciples watched him eat some supper. It was wonderful to see Jesus again. But one disciple was missing. Thomas had not been there to see Jesus. When they all told him that Jesus was alive, Thomas said, "I will not believe it until I see him with my own eyes and touch the place where the nails went." The very next Sunday, they were all together, and Thomas was with them. Jesus came again. "Here I am, Thomas," he said quietly. "Reach out and touch me. Now, will you believe that I really am alive?" I do believe," said Thomas. "You are my Lord and my God." After this, Jesus' friends went home to Lake Galilee. One morning, they were out fishing in their boat. They had fished all night, but still the nets were empty. Suddenly a man called out from the beach, "Let down the nets on the other side of the boat." "Does you think we don't know how to fish?" they said, but they did as they were told. Soon the nets were bulging with enormous fish. "It's Jesus!" they all shouted. That morning, as they had breakfast together, Jesus had a quiet word with Peter, who was forgiven for that dreadful morning when he had said he did not know Jesus, and he was told he had special work to do. 6 weeks went by, and Jesus took his disciples for a walk up the hill outside Jerusalem. "You have seen how God gave me power to heal sick people and give life to those who were dead," Jesus said. "You have heard all about God's kingdom. Now it's time for me to go back to my Father. I want you to tell everyone about me. Go to Jerusalem and wait there, for God will give you the same power that He gave me." Then the clouds came down, and when they cleared, Jesus had gone. The disciples went back to Jerusalem and waited. They prayed to God as Jesus had taught them. They talked of all the wonderful things they had seen and heard while they had been with Jesus. They did not know it, but an exciting new life was about to begin. The end.